amazing. You have a tremendous memory. A lot of those things we just talked about a few minutes ago, and you remembered all of them. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm quite overwhelmed by the size of the audience. Talking about World War II, I could talk for 2 or 3 days if we had the time. I've got World War II right here on note cards. There's the whole war. I'd like to first talk a little about the men of E Company. They were a remarkable group of men. We pulled together at Toccoa in North Georgia in August of 1942. By chance, this particular group of men came together, and they were most capable, and as I said before, a remarkable group of men. In some of the interviews in one of the interviews with HBO, I kidded with them about E Company. I said, in the Army, there are many units that think they are the best unit in the Army. In E Company, we knew we were the best unit. And that's the way we felt. We felt that we were the best combat unit in the U.S. Army. We were trained from the beginning by Captain Sobel. Sobel was not dealt kindly with in the book or in the television program. But Captain Sobel, made E Company. He worked our tails off. He was determined to make E Company the best company in the regiment. And he worked us to death to be sure that that happened. He was not the man to lead us into combat. He didn't have the presence of mind, the analytical ability, the quickness of thinking, the ability to analyze a difficult situation and come up with a solution or an attack plan or whatever. So we knew he was not the man to lead us into combat. So in E Company, we had a mutiny. All the sergeants said they would turn in their stripes. They did not want to go into combat with Captain Sobel. Mutinies in the Army are unusual. You don't have mutinies in the Army. But this one worked. And Colonel Singh, regimental commander, relieved Captain Sobel, moved him into a training operation, which was perfect for him, and we got Lieutenant Meehan. Colonel Singh came down to E Company, and boy, he read the riot act to us. He said, I could have all you men shot. A mutiny in the Army just before going into combat. He said, I could have you all shot. But the mutiny worked. And we got Lieutenant Meehan, and Captain Sobel went into an operation which he can handle very well. I'm here with the Gordons. But my favorite people, my best friend throughout my life was Walter Gordon. He and I just hit it off well together. We visited with each other. They visited us in Geneva. I've been New Orleans many times, Lafayette many times, Pass Christian. We just had great times together. You know, Walter was wounded in Normandy, in Bastogne, and I would like to talk a little about that. His daughters know what I'm going to talk about. It was December 24th at Bastogne. We were in the snow, in foxholes. Walter was a machine gunner. as you can see by that picture over there. Great machine gunner. Very accomplished, very capable machine gunner. He had his machine gun set up towards the left flank of our defensive position, which were very strong there at Bastogne. We had put in defensive positions, and we had complete confidence that the Germans would not be able to go through us. Walter was in his foxhole with his machine gun, and one of the German forward scouts, in the start of a German attack against our position, got close enough to see Walter and shot him. Put a bullet, which went in one shoulder and across his back and out the other side. Somebody yelled that Walter was hit. So I yelled at Allie and Rogers to get him out of his foxhole and get him back, which they did. They got him back behind a grove of trees into a little clearing back there in the snow, 10 inches of snow. And the attack, apparently the Germans, when they hit, they were just feeling us out, and then they pulled back a little, so things were quiet. So I went back to see how Walter was, my friend, my closest friend. He was lying in the snow. They had spread a shelter half on the ground and a blanket over. He was lying there on his back, all spread out. They put another blanket over him, and they were giving him plasma. When I went back there and looked at him, his face was gray, his eyes were closed, he was hardly breathing. I thought he's dying. My friend is dying. And then I looked at the plasma that they were giving him. It seemed to me it was flowing kind of slowly through this plastic tube. I thought maybe it's freezing. So I took the plasma from the medic, put it inside my clothes, under my arm, and I was standing there looking down at Walter, trying to keep that plasma warm. And as I looked down at him, he opened his eyes. And I said, "Walter, how do you feel?" He said, "Lipton, you're standing on my hand." Now, there have been many questions about that. Dick Winters says that couldn't have happened. He was paralyzed. Walter himself did not remember it, but I can tell you that is exactly the way it happened. Lee talked about one of my wounds. One time that I was wounded, I was going into quarantine on D+6, June 12th, and we had pulled around quarantine to hit from the rear, and then we're brought back around to the front, and we're going in just at daybreak to hit the town and clear it. Quarantine was an important town at that time, an important area because it allowed the link up of the people coming in on Utah Beach and the ones coming in on Omaha Beach. I got into quarantine, was at one of the main crossroads there when the Germans dropped mortar shells about 8-10 feet from me, 5 centimeters shell, and it put shell fragments in my cheek here, made a hole about the size of a quarter. It put 2 fragments into my wrist here, which broke my wrist and cut an artery, and it put 2 fragments right in my crotch. Talbot was the first one to me, and the blood was pumping out of my wrist here, but each beat of my heart, well, first, I felt this numbness up here. And of course, your first thought is my eye. Is my eye all right? And I reached up and I found that the hole was down here. And my eye was all right. I told her I would put a tourniquet on that arm because the blood was pumping out, which he did. Then I felt this pain down here. And I reached down, looked, and it was all bloody. I said, Talbot, I may be hit bad. Talbot pulled out his trench knife, slit my pants leg from the ankle clear on up, and he took a look. He said, Lipton, you're okay. Now, just to prove that he was right, my first son was born 9 months and 3 days after I got back to the States. As I said earlier, our feeling at Bastogne was that we had such strong defensive positions that the Germans could not break through. I talked earlier about when Walter was hit. They got him out of there, and it took him years, but he recovered. And as I say, he and I had many pleasant times together since the war. But that day, the 24th of December, after he was hit, and after the Germans pulled back a little, they came in with a full-scale attack against our positions. We didn't have another man wounded. Not another man in the E Company. Walter Gordon was the only one wounded. After that attack was over, after we had beaten them all, and they had withdrawn, I went out in front of our positions and counted 38 German bodies out there that we had gotten when they tried to come in to our positions, which shows you how strong our positions were at that point. Combat men are a breed apart. They depend on each other. They have confidence in each other. They love each other. That feeling of confidence I can still get when I see pictures of men standing around with their M1s, with their rifles. I still get that feeling back of confidence and pride that you get when you're in a combat unit. Marie, would you bring me the book? Because it has some notes in it. Oh, but the notes is what I want. Yeah.
Mara?
Okay. You know, I know Steve Ambrose well. He wrote this book, Band of Brother, and of course he's written many other books. When he was writing D-Day, which he wrote after Band of Brothers. Band of Brothers came out in 92. D-Day came out in 94. When he was writing D-Day, he would send me draft chapters for my comments, criticism, or whatever. And in one of those chapters, I disagreed quite pointedly with how he had written the chapter. I wrote him a letter. And this letter is dated January 3rd, 1996. This is not when he was writing D-Day, because 96 is too late. Writing one of his other books. Here's what I said in my letter. Dear Steve, I've written in some comments on the draft, and I hope that they're helpful. I realize that it is difficult to visualize and understand the feelings of the frontline combat soldier. But I am concerned that as you describe the terrible conditions that surround him, you are portraying him as terror-stricken and helpless. With very few exceptions, men adapt quickly to combat, and the few exceptions are gotten rid of as soon as they show up. A combat unit could not function, either in defense or offense, if the men were terror-stricken. I'm not saying that there's no fear. Remember that at the cemetery at Omaha Beach in 1991, Colonel Hans von Luck, who was a colonel in the German army, said that any man who said that he was never afraid was a liar. When bullets are cracking around you, or shells are falling all around you, you have a momentary, healthy feeling of fear that gives you that shot of adrenaline that sharpens your thinking and helps you act quickly and decisively. Combat soldiers are inspired and motivated by their pride and confidence in themselves, their comrades, and their units. A good soldier will not let himself nor his comrades down. To him, failing in disgrace would be the most terrible of fates. He keeps those momentary feelings of fear to himself. Those who succumb to the fear are failures, and they are the exceptions that are moved out. If a man loses that feeling of pride and decides that he wants out, he doesn't have to get trench foot or shoot himself in the foot. All he needs to do is say that he can't take anymore. At Bastogne, one of the machine gunners told me that he couldn't bear to think of shooting a German. I moved him to the rear and out of the company that day. Some do break. Lieutenant Dyke is a good example. He was just not a combat man. What I'm saying is that in your effort to show how terrible combat conditions can be, this chapter makes it appear that the typical American soldier broke under the strain. Few did, but the vast majority adapted and were capable fighting men. Remember Taylor and McClellan going out and finding and killing the Germans who shot Walter Gordon, and the 38 German dead in front of our positions that day when the fighting was over, and Walter was our only casualty. These things were not done by terrified men. They were done by real fighting men. Would it be possible to put more emphasis in this chapter on how well almost all the men from this supposedly soft United States became toughened fighters who fought the Germans in almost every battle? My comments on page 111 of Band of Brothers were not idealistic, Steve. They were true. As regards Carwood. His answer. Dear Carwood, bless you. Your comments are exactly on the mark. I agree with your overall point and with most of your specific suggestions for word change or emphasis. And I'm going to include your comments from Band of Brothers, page 111, and do some commentary on the themes that you raise. And you're exactly right about the weakness of the chapter as it now stands, and how much stronger it will be with your points made explicitly, all of which is heartfelt, and I hope encourages you to put the same attention to theme and detail into the enclosed 3 chapters. I need your help. These are chapters in draft form, along with the chapter you have read, Night on the Line. These form an interlude section in the book, coming after the first chapter on the bulge, to Christmas, and before the second chapter on the bulge. I thought your comments on the stockade versus the foxhole, and which was more desirable, were not only correct, but expressed with poetic insight and feeling. I'm going to use it. Those were comments that I wrote on the draft. They said we're selling our Bay St. Louis home, moving to Atlanta to be near the grandchildren, but they actually kept their Bay St. Louis home, and they go there in the winter, spend the winters there, and the summers they spend up north. Hope this finds you well and in good spirit. And if you would, please send a copy of these chapters to Dick Winters for his comments. Sincerely, Steve. I thought it was an interesting exchange of letters. Now, probably many of us, this is a G-Rock copy of E Company. This was made at Fort Bragg, 1943, before we took off for Europe. The on here it says September 43, but really it was late August 43. Now in this, I'll pass it around, you take a look at it. I'm the third man in the front row. Look for the third man in the front row, and you'll see.
Show me a picture of that.
So, yeah. This was after the march to Atlanta. This is Lipton, and there's Walter. Gordon. Yeah, this was the 3rd platoon of E Company. We made a march to Atlanta. After we finished our training at Toccoa, we were on our way to Fort Benning to qualify as paratroopers, and it was decided that we would march from Toccoa to Atlanta, which we did, carrying full field equipment, 118 miles, which we made in 3 days. The reason this picture was taken, that's 3rd Platoon of E Company, my platoon. The reason it was taken is we didn't lose a man on the march. The only platoon in the 2nd Battalion, which made the march, which did not lose a man. So this picture was taken by a newspaper photographer for the Atlanta Journal back there late in 1942.
Carl, would you want to stool to lean on?
Yeah.
Let me get you a stool.
I've had this lung problem, which came up same day as the attack on the World Trade Center. Very early that morning, I was at Denver, giving an interview out there, and I woke up very early in the morning, feeling terrible. And Marie soon had the hotel room filled with medical people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Good, Carl. There you go.
And then, 2 days. Remember, I could go 2 days. They got me to the hospital. The first thought I had a heart attack. Then they found that couldn't be. My heart was fine. But they did see that I had this breathing problem, pulmonary fibrosis, right, Marie? And it's something they don't know what causes it, so they don't know how to cure it. And I'm still working with the doctor to see what they can do. But it does make my voice weak and causes my voice to break, for which I apologize.
You're looking good, Lip.
Okay. Going into Normandy, I'd like to talk a few minutes about that. It was our first combat. We went to the marshalling area late in May of 1944. At the marshalling area, we were sealed off from outside world, and were given all the information available on the Normandy invasion. Not just on what we would do, but what all the other units would do also. We were given a complete picture of what the Normandy invasion would be like. I was platoon sergeant of the 3rd Platoon, this platoon right here. We had 2 officers, platoon leader, Lieutenant Smith, and assistant platoon leader, Lieutenant Matthews. But Lieutenant Smith was injured at the marshalling area and was not able to make the jump into Normandy. He was jump master of one of the planes, so I became jump master. A 40B jump master of the planes, that plane going into Normandy, plane number 73. Maybe the only sergeant jump master in the invasion, I don't know. Because all the jump masters were officers. But it just happened that with Lieutenant Smith being injured, that I became jump master of plane number 73. The depiction and the television program of that jump is quite accurate. The going in, the sky was clear as we flew over the channel. The sky was clear. As jump master, I could lie on the floor with my head out in the slipstream and look down and see thousands of all kinds of ships, landing craft and everything in the channel. It was filmed, and it was then, I think, that I realized for the first time how big the invasion was. There were just thousands of different kind of craft down in that channel moving towards Normandy. As I say, the sky was clear at that time. But when we circled around the Channel Islands, Jersey and Guernsey, and the planes came to the Normandy coast to go across Normandy for us to jump, we had very heavy cloud cover. And I chose it in that television program. And the planes started taking evasive action because then we hit anti-aircraft fire, heavy anti-aircraft fire from the Normandy Peninsula, from the Germans there. The sky was filled with tracers, explosions, all kinds of anti-aircraft fire coming up at it. None hit my plane. I was standing in the door, looking down, and looking around, and I could see all this fire in the sky, and all these tracers going by. But as I say, my plane was not hit. The plane, though, was taking all kinds of evasive action. It was banking and swerving and back and forth. And the men had all stood up. I had them stand up and hook up, but they could hardly keep their feet. The plane was moving around, banking and swerving so much. They were just throwing us around in the plane. The men were yelling, "Let's go, let's go." They wanted to get out of that plane. Then the green light went on. And I went out with all the others right behind me. When I came out of that plane, I saw that the plane had been flying quite fast. We ordinarily jumped at about 9,800 miles an hour. That plane must have been going 150 miles an hour. And when I got the opening shot, when my chute opened, I lost all my equipment, including my weapon. And so I was coming down with, as it turned out, 2 hand grenades and a trench knife. And that's all I had to fight the war with. What bothered me more was as I looked down, I was in the air only 35 seconds or so. But as I looked down, I saw I was not coming down where I was supposed to. We were supposed to land near the town of Saint Louis du Mont, down near the base of the peninsula. And I was coming down in a larger town, and I was coming down in the middle of it, and I didn't know what town it was. There was a fire in the town. Building was on fire. A church bell was ringing. I could hear this church bell. They were spraying machine gun fire, the Germans were, up into the air, but not well-aimed fire. They didn't seem to be aiming directly at me. They seemed to be just spraying fire up into the air, and it missed me. And as I say, I was in the air not very long, 35 seconds. And I landed in the middle of a walled-in area, maybe 100 yards square, with a high stone wall around it. Still not knowing where I was. Took my shoes off. Felt quite calm. Went up to the one corner of this walled-in area. There was a house there, a French house. I could hear people talking inside the house, but I didn't know whether they were Germans or collaborators, and I didn't want to try to find out since I didn't have a weapon. So I went over the gate, which was by the house, into the street. I could look and see that the street was clear from the glare of the fire, which was down to the right. And coming down, I saw which way I needed to go to get out of the town. I didn't want to stay in this town. So I worked my way out along the street, came to one of those road signs that every French town and village had. Concrete and ceramic letters and quite substantial. That tells the name of the town. And by that time it was dark. I was quite some distance from the fire. So I couldn't read this sign. It was too dark to read the sign. But I got up real close and I went letter by letter, picked out what the letters were. And I saw the town was St. Mary Police, which was really the 82nd Airborne objective. When they came in, they second jumped after us. You remember the guy, you've probably seen it, the guy who landed in the steeple on the church? Well, I was 100 yards from that church, and he hadn't landed by the time I was there and had worked my way out. They, as I say, the 82nd jumped after us. I joined up with a couple of guys from the 82nd. I saw them coming down. I ran under them as they came down so that they wouldn't, I didn't want them to think I was a German and shoot me on the way down. So I ran under them and was talking to them as they came down. And they didn't shoot me. So I joined up with them, then went on back out to the road with those two, offered a cricket. You know, the children's cricket that you squeeze, you know, quick, 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 quick. That's one of the things that we had as identification going into Normandy. And I heard this cricket, so I quit mine twice. And it turned out it was Lieutenant Winters, one of the officers of E Company. He was the first E Company man that I saw, and I was the first E Company man that he saw. Incidentally, we called ourselves E Company, not Easy Company, E Company. Easy is the phonetic alphabet word for the letter E. The phonetic alphabet at that time has changed since then. It started out Abel, Baker, Charlie, Dog, Easy, Fox, and Easy was the phonetic word for E. A lot of people think, well, you called yourself an Easy Company because you made everything look easy. No, it wasn't that at all. They just called us Easy Company, particularly in the television public, because easy is the phonetic word for E. I would like to say something else, though, as an aside before going on. The one thing that bothers me about the television program is the language. We did not talk that way. And I don't know why they did put that kind of language in. We just weren't that kind of people. You know, I've talked quite a while. There might be some questions, I don't know. Sometimes there usually are. So, without further ado, I'm going to open it up for questions, if there are any.
I have a question, Carwood.
Okay?
Was Dad in your plane? Was Dad in your plane?
No. He was in another plane. He landed up northwest of where I was, yeah. I was down pretty much in the center of the Normandy Peninsula where I landed. And he was in another plane that landed up northwest of where I was.
Okay. I have a question.
Yes.
In an interview that I read that you did, you said that there were a lot of very serious things, but a lot of the things that you remember are the funny things that happened.
Yeah.
Can you give, is there one that just comes to mind, a funny thing that happened?
With soldiers, a lot of funny things happen. Let's see, Shifty Powers. Shifty was from Frenchco, Virginia, a remarkable rifle shot. He'd been hunting squirrels all his life, I guess. I was a good rifle shot, but I couldn't compare with Shifty Powers. But in England, let's picture ourselves now in England before the invasion. England, you know, it rains a lot. It's dark a lot in the winter. So you're up at northern latitude there. And so it gets dark early and it stays dark till late in the morning. We had been called out for chow, for breakfast, which we called chow. And when we got there to the mess hall, there in England, in Auburn, England, the mess hall was closed. The door was closed. The cooks were still working on breakfast. It was time for us to have breakfast, but they didn't have it ready yet. We're standing out there in the chilly drizzle outside the mess hall, angry, quite angry. And the men were yelling all kinds of insulting things at the cooks who were inside the mess hall, of course, working on breakfast. Shifty Powers was quite a chowhound. He was one that was usually right up front when you got in line to get your food. So he was in front of all of us, was standing right in the door, right up to the door of the mess hall. All of us back there yelling and angry and insulting and everything. And as sometimes happens in a situation like that, for just a few seconds, everything got very quiet. Nobody was saying anything. Shifty, up in the door, yells, "Feed me or fight me." The door flew open, a fist came out and hit him right in the eye. Knocked him flat, gave him a black eye which lasted a week. So there's all kinds of funny stuff. We kid Shifty about that the rest of the time. I still kid him about that. Okay.
Carwood. You mentioned that this was the first combat, I believe, for your company.
Yeah.
And I understand that's true of most, or maybe even all of the troops going in at that
Yeah.
time. My question is, you were confronting troops that had been in war successfully pretty much, except for Russia, for 5 years.
That's right.
Were you disadvantaged? Were they advantaged by their experience, or were you advantaged by the fact that you were fresh?
Well, I don't know, really don't know the answer to that. I know that, as I said a number of times, we were very confident of our ability. Remember, we had trained together almost 2 years by that time. And we knew, as I said earlier, that we were good. Now, we felt we could take care of ourselves. The German units there were not their best. The ones they had in Normandy, remember, they had that whole coast to cover. And they couldn't put their best troops in any one place. They did maybe more of that up around Le Havre. They thought that's where the invasion would take place. But, we were scattered all over the Normandy Peninsula in that jump. And you can say, well, that sure made it difficult for you. It did. It made it most difficult for us. When we hit those guns on D-Day, there were only 13 of us with Dick Winters. and they hit those 105mm guns. But I think we confused the Germans more than it confused us. We knew what we were supposed to do wherever we were. Remember, I talked about our briefing, very complete. We knew what we were supposed to do. I think the Germans wondered, where are all these guys? They're everywhere. And they didn't know how many of us. I jumped in San Mariglis. They didn't know how many of us had gone into San Mariglis. All they knew is they saw some parachutes coming down. And that same picture was all over the Normandy Peninsula. And they didn't know what they were up against. And I think it confused them and alarmed them and prevented their organizing themselves much more than it did us. We knew what we were going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lipton, I was really moved by the next to last episode that portrayed the story of E Company liberating the concentration camp.
Yeah.
Were you there, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I was out at West Coast in April to see all 10 episodes. When that episode came on, I wouldn't watch. I didn't want. I didn't want to bring back those memories. I did watch the television program, and I found that it was not as bad as the real thing. We didn't liberate that concentration camp. A unit went through ahead of us, and they cleared the Germans out. When we got there, there were no Germans defending that camp. The camp was terrible, absolutely terrible. You can't imagine what it looked like. But as I say, I watched the television program. It was nowhere near as bad as the actual camp was. So I guess I'm over it now. Yes, sir.
In the book, Captain Winters is something to behold.
Yeah.
Do you, and I know I'm asking you a question you might not want to answer, was he as great as a leader as it shows in the book?
Yeah. He's the best combat leader that I've ever seen. He was amazing. He was really amazing. His ability, when we came up against something, to size up the situation and come up with an attack plan, if that was what was needed, that would work. I haven't seen anybody that could even touch him. He's also a fine gentleman, very religious man, very moral man, quiet, but he's physically very capable, but mentally extremely capable, and as a leader, just outstanding. Yes, he's everything that the book says he is, and as it comes through, as portrayed by Damian Lewis in the television program.
I was gonna, another question.
Okay.
There's a lot of talk about the sacrifice of these men for one another. Do you have an example of a time when there was a sacrifice, courage under fire that these men showed that you recall?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah. You know, it's hard to say it's a sacrifice for another man. We worked as a team. If we were pinned down and one man could move forward, he moved forward. If by moving forward he could put fire into a position, German position, that had somebody else pinned down, he did that, and that let this other man move forward. If we worked as a team, we didn't have standout stars. Nobody jumped up and charged a machine gun or anything like that. It was foolhardy. We worked as a team and helped each other, not from the standpoint of helping each other, but from the standpoint of getting the job done. If we had to take a position, we weren't looking to see to help somebody else on our side. We were looking at what each one of us could do to take that position. And that's the way we were throughout the war. That isn't a good answer to your question, but I can't give a better answer. I can't think of a time when somebody did something. Well, I can think of one time. I was in the television program when Toy got his leg shot off, or cut off by that artillery shell, and Garnier went out to help him. And Garnier then lost his leg. I got to Garnier just right after that. He was sitting there in the snow. His leg was gone from halfway up his calf down. Medic was just getting to him. He was holding his leg with his hands. Legs had been cut off, and it was jerking rhythmically like that. And he looked up at me and he said, "Lipton, they got old Garnier this time." Of course they did. So he had a lot of trouble with that leg. Gangrene and everything. You know, we didn't have the antibiotics that you have now. And they had trouble with gangrene. They kept cutting off more and more of the leg. Finally got it clear up mid-thigh. And that's the way he is now. Great combat man, Garnier. Fine guy. So there is an example of somebody doing something. Okay. Yes, sir.
Shed some light on the episode first off, focuses on your heroes.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing.
You shed some light on Captain Spears.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Spears was a fine officer, a very capable officer. They don't deal kindly with him in the book or in the television program, but I know Spears well. He and I hit it off very well when he came into the company. We became good friends, as much as you can be between a company commander and a first sergeant and later an officer. Spears did kill one of his sergeants in Normandy. They were in a dangerous situation there in Normandy. His platoon, he was in another company, and he was platoon leader. The men found some cognac, or Calvados or something, and they were getting drunk. As I say, it was a dangerous situation where they were. So he got the men together and said, "Listen, no more drinking. We're in a dangerous situation here. One man drunk can cause a lot of us to get killed." I think it was a day or so later, the sergeant came walking up to him, and he was obviously dead drunk. And Spears pulled out his pistol and shot him and killed him. Spears said, "You know, after that, I had no more problem with drinking." Now, in the television program and in the book, they talk about Spears shooting 20 or 30 prisoners, German prisoners. That is completely out of character with Spears. If you talk, as the book says, if you talk to one man, he said, "Well, I didn't see it, but so-and-so saw it." And you go over and talk to that guy and say, "Well, I didn't see it, but so-and-so saw it." And you go to that guy and you say, "Well, I didn't see it, but this guy over here saw it." Nobody will ever say that they saw that. As I say, Spears and I were very close. He told me about shooting the sergeant, the shooting prisoners. We didn't do things like that. And Spears would not have done anything like that. So although it's in here, just as with Captain Sobel, very unkind, I don't believe that it ever happened. I'm sure
He hasn't denied it though, Liv. He hasn't denied it. He hasn't admitted and he hasn't denied it.
Well, yeah.
He just doesn't say anything.
I haven't denied beating my wife, but
Good answer.
The discrepancy about Dick Winters kicking the men to get them to move forward.
oh boy,
Oh.
that is a famous
Problem.
problem. Is right. In the book and in the television program, in the fighting into Carentan, when they first go into Carentan, the the forward unit in each company was the first platoon. Third platoon, my platoon, was in reserve at that time. We were just behind, moving on into Carentan. The first platoon, as they got up fairly close to this crossroad in Carentan, they were pinned down by machine gun fire. So they hit the ditches on each side of the road. Winters was out in the road. He was leading the attack. Well, not quite leading the attack. Lieutenant Welch, who was platoon leader of the first platoon, had been ahead, and in fact had been far enough ahead that he was clear up into Carentan, forward to where this machine gun was. He and one of the sergeants, and I don't remember which one it was. But anyway, as described in the book, and is somewhat portrayed in the television program, when the machine gun fire started down the road, with the first platoon moving in, they went into the ditches on each side of the road. Winters, in his account, says that he kicked the men and yelled at them and everything, and finally got them going. I said that when you're standing in a road, it's hard to get somebody that's down on his head. But I talked to the men. Sergeant Martin was one of them. The men who had been pinned down there. I said, Lord, they taught us from the time we've been in the Army, when a machine gun opens up on you, you hit the dirt. You don't stand up. But anyway, Winters said the only way he could get the men moving was to yell at them and kick them and everything. What actually got the thing moving was Welch, Lieutenant Welch, up front with that sergeant, knocked that machine gun out. And when they knocked the machine gun out, then everybody moved in. That's when I moved in and got my famous hit. Okay. I think, Maurice, my wife says we're running out of time. In fact, it is getting late. Now, one more question.
147 how many were left?
About what now? Yeah? Well, Eugene Rowe. Yeah. Boy, that's right. Boy, we depended on those medics. Yeah. And Eugene Rowe was a good one. Boy, he was where you needed him. I don't know how he got to all the places where he was needed. He was good. You know, he died a few years ago. Lived down in Louisiana.
Democrat.
Yeah. Yeah, fine guy, Eugene was. So that was episode 6. And it was a good portrayal of what those guys had to go through. Remember that at Bastogne, we didn't have medical facilities. Right after we moved into Bastogne, the Germans captured our entire medical unit. So all we had were these medics up front and anything we could scrounge and find in the town of Bastogne itself. So we were really short of medical facilities. And when men like Garnier was hit, that's probably the reason that he lost so much of his life. We just didn't have a way to take care of guys when they were hit. So the pressure was really on guys like Eugene Rowe. Okay, what is that?
He stay there. When did he finally get out?
Like 2 days later.
You want to turn the call?
How did they get
Great
out?
talk. Y'all.
That's right.
We have hors d'oeuvres coming. We've got music. We've got plenty of champagne, and hope you all will hang around for a little bit and enjoy the hospitality. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee. I know, that's what I was. Is it on? Can it hear him?
People in North Carolina that I worked with, and a lot of them I worked with in Europe. So we never knew you were in the Army. I just didn't talk about it to them.
Tell him that you've got me videotaping him so he won't wonder what I'm doing.
Yes, ma'am.
I've got Christian videotaping for,
You never got to watch the Carwood interview with Ambrose?
no, but you know what?
What?
Did Ambrose come to your house and video, I mean, not video, tape record?
No.
Okay. It should
He's
be.
gonna be back, this coming week.
Great. Thanks for doing that.
13th.
Who, Ambrose? Yeah. Going to your house?
Coming back, and he and his wife are gonna spend the night with me.
Oh, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, Ambrose, we told Ambrose that you said it was okay for us to get a copy of your interview.
No.
And he said, Tracy, I don't have them, but the Eisenhower Museum.
Hey, yeah, he must have them somewhere, because I can remember he had a tape recorder.
How
when he
long
was
was
in-
it? Days, several days?
I don't know, this was a long time. I would say.
Oh,
I just don't remember. No. Garnier was there also. And we both had time with him.
You don't have to party, man. You have luggage.
Who else is there?
Just Garnier and I.
Champagne.
All right, Tracy, get him to tell a story so I'm not just
I
videotaping.
hear you're big.
I wouldn't mind getting this on tape. Now, you said that, that thing about Spears shooting that sergeant. You said, you told me in town, you said, Tracy, I don't know if I could have done it, but what you did was not wrong.
None of the men disagreed with him.
In combat,
22.
you're an entirely different life, an entirely different set of values than you are back here. His job as platoon leader was to lead that platoon and protect that platoon. And if this sergeant was going to do something which would endanger the other men in the platoon, he was entirely within his rights to get rid of that sergeant. Yeah.
He was never reprimanded then.
Were you there when the guy that at the end of the
There wouldn't be any investigation or any court martial for a situation like that.
No. Go ahead.
when that guy at the end of the movie he shot the corporal? Remember they beat him up? Was he there? I don't know.
That was done on Moon. Wasn't it Moon? They said, at the very end when they found that German officer at his home. Wasn't it Moon that said, I'm sorry, I'm not sure. Who was that?
That was Moon. And in the television program, they had Webster,
Leave God.
and I forget who the third one was. And actually, what actually happened, it was, and I can't remember his name now, the first sergeant to be company that I was telling. They brought him in from another company, I can't remember his name. And the other two were Moon and Sis. Skinny Sis.
Spears sent the three of them up there to get this man, who was the Nazi leader in that area.
How
To
did they
get,
know? How did they know he was the bad guy? Because the prisoners.
That information is easy to come back.
The opulence of his house.
They knew that he was the Nazi leader, so Spears said, go up and get this guy and kill him. And they went up there and got the guy, took him out. The sergeant, whose name I can't remember, said to Moon, kill him, shoot him. Moon said, you shoot him. The war is over. And the guy took off running, and Skinny said, shot him with his rifle.
Then why did Skinny shoot him?
Oh, Skinny said, oh no.
No, in the movie, it was shifting.
Okay, actually, it was Skinny said, oh, in the television program, it was Lee Rock, wasn't it?
Well, Lee got, and there was two others, but what was the reason Donald said no? He just said,
Enough killing.
He said the war's over.
Yeah, but he was a Nazi. I know.
Well, I know. Moon was not a killer.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
He was a more
character.
general person. And he just didn't want to shoot this defenseless man.
Could he have gotten in trouble for not following the order, though?
Yeah. Wait. Tell some stories about Moon. I think Moon is so funny. What was it, Jurgen?
The mask. The
Oh,
mask.
yeah.
Oh, the
Jurgen's Lotion. That was the,
Here's another funny story.
That was the poem that they wrote about.
Daddy, one of Daddy's jokes on Moon.
Tell us about the gas.
No, that was in England.
It was?
Well, we had been issued new gas masks, and the gas mask, when we got it, had a little plug over the air intake. Over the air intake at this plug. Moon had been, I think, on sick call or something, and he came back to the company and came into the barracks. Actually, it was a
He
stable.
missed the exercise, the
Yeah.
instruction.
Actually, it was a stable. Moon and Walter and I shared this stable. There were 3 bunks in it. It was in England, at Auburn. And that was our barracks, just the 3 of us in this barracks. And so Moon came back from sick call and we gave him this new gas mask. And so he's looking at the gas mask and he sees that plug on there, and he starts to take the plug off. Walter said, hey, don't take that plug off. It's hard as hell to get back. So Moon left the plug on there, and we said, now you want to try out the gas mask, see how it works. So Moon puts the gas mask on, and he tries to take a breath, and it against his face, because no air can come into it.
Y'all are laughing at this.
No, we're very serious. And we're sitting there looking at him, and he said, what's the matter with him? He says, I can't breathe. He puts the thing on, and each time he tries to breathe in, he throws it into his face. And so I said, well, let me try. So I put it on, and I acted like I was taking a breath, but I didn't. And then I gave it down. I said, well, it breathes a little hard. But I said, you just have to get used to it. So he put it on again and tried, and he said, I just can't breathe. And I said, you know, you've been on sick call. Maybe that's the problem. Walter said, that's it. You've been on sick call. Your lungs are weak. And Moon got down behind his bunk, and he put that thing on, and we could see him down there trying to breathe, and he couldn't breathe with it. Finally, he figured out to take that plug out. Boy, was he absolutely furious. So then we had a big formation and presented him with the medal, the gas mask cluster.
Anything, Daddy say anything to just pass the time.
Yeah. Poor Moon Herman had a rough time. We gave him a rough time.
Yeah, but didn't he like go like keep the barracks clean and y'all would go on these hikes, he'd get out of it, and then y'all come back and get hot coffee.
Oh yeah.
Who's the house
Herman was a real boulder.
Oh, what, go over?
Yeah, he could get out of it.
Well, Daddy, you know what? Daddy, in his interview with Ambrose, said, I never did a night jump in training. First night jump I ever did was in Normandy. He said, I got out of it.
But he said that's wrong. Daddy, he said London he jumped and Daddy was jumping out.
How did he get out of Operation Eagle?
Go back to the store and shoes. You gotta go to the shoes.
My feet.
Because we jumped a night in England in Operation Eagle.
We got out of it. He got out.
He said, he told Ambrose and he said, I use those shoes.
Not being able to see the carriage on the back.
Walter was a goofball said, I know he was. You don't have to tell me that. I know. And he said, he and Tab were terrible. I didn't know Talbot was that is.
That was the best. Daddy said Talbot saved it all. Yeah. Okay.
Talbot's good too.
Yeah, but he said, Walter said, Talbot got me out of Carrington. So I met Taylor. Oh, yeah. Before I did.
You know, Talbot's the one that got to me when I was hit there in Kansas. Put that tourniquet on and gave me a shot of morphine. Our first aid kit, each man had a first aid kit, and it had a morphine syringe. He gave me a shot of morphine, threw me over his shoulder, and carried me back to the first aid kit.
He was cool under pressure, huh? Yeah. He was cool under pressure.
Yeah, great guy. That was good.
Walter ran into a line in the ambulance. He said, oh, he get me out of here before they kill me. Bullets all over this ambulance. He said,
You didn't know, Richard didn't know about that. Yeah.
I didn't mention it in there. I had this whole size of a quarter. It was really bad. And they put me back in the hospital in England. I was there 5 or 6 days just with a baby. And the medical doctor came through the ward where I was with the filled with guys that had been wounded. And he was a full colonel.
You told my son about that last night.
Okay. And he looked at this. He said, I want to work on this book. And next day they took me in, and this guy fixed me up here. So you can hardly tell it. But I tell you, it's a whole lot different.
Carwood, let me see. Oh, my word, that's nothing.
I know. You should have seen it when it happened.
Yeah, that's your best feature right there.
it really is.
Yeah.
Rose is that. How do you like Tad's brother Bob? Isn't he a nice guy?
Who?
Tad's brother.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna see him the week of Thanksgiving. We're gonna be up in Toledo, and I'm gonna give a talk up in Michigan. Where he lives.
Oh, that'll good. You know,
Oh yeah.
he's a great guy. He is a great guy. Oh, we love it. We love it. And you know what?
Just like that.
Yes, is he just like that? Really? He's actually look like him? Does he look like
No, he doesn't look so much like him, but he acts like him.
Does he? He's very dignified.
Yeah,
he's got that deep.
Oh yeah, so was Albert.
Well, he made Tracy and I, he has been so sweet to us. He sent us the book and put the photograph of Daddy on the CD cover.
Well, I want to give Chris a copy of that.
Okay, now, we're not talking about Talbot but not the one, oh, his brother's the one, okay. Because he's the one who died, right? I mean, who came to the England, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
In San Diego.
About 1982 or 83.
Yeah, 81 in San Diego, y'all found.
It was in San Diego in 81.
Loves his son down there.
Then he went down to Acapulco.
Correct.
Yeah.
Spent a couple of weeks with Daddy.
Yeah.
That was, Daddy loved it. Daddy loved it.
Oh, he was fine.
I wish he could. I never met him.
You never met him?
No, no.
Give me Blackjack. Now, what is Blackjack? What would you like?
Blackjack Lou Hendricks?
Yeah.
Well, for one thing, he was a good blackjack player. That's where he got his nickname. Yeah,
Because he got his hand.
no, Blackjack Lou Hendricks played blackjack, and he was good at it. And he could win it. Yeah, he was good.
Was he a new man or a Tikoa?
He was not a Tacoma man,
Really? Talking about Blackjack.
but he came in, I think, at Camp Hall.
They always tell
Right
us.
after. You're right. That's what like McClung came in and called. McClung said he never got the respect he got from shoes.
Right.
Then they got the respect.
How could anybody?
He's not Dakota. Oh, I know McClung.
How could anybody get respect if they weren't from Dakota?
He says, when he also with shoes, then he got a little respect. But he said, until then, oh, he was like nothing. Just a new man?
Well, sure.
But he did everything. He did
Once
everything y'all did.
a new man,
A new man is anybody that didn't know.
once a new man, always a new man. If you weren't from Dakota, you were a new man.
They're still not,
No. He did everything they did. He joined up just weeks after Dakota. That's it. Yeah. And he was always never got the respect.
If you weren't a Dakota man, you were a new man. And you were a new man the rest of the war.
They always, it was always so-and-so. They never gave him the credit. Classic.
And boy, it made him mad too to be called a new man.
What? Oh, yeah. Well, Babe does the best. Babe got a lot of help.
Oh, yeah.
He's been on Garniers hip ever since, hasn't he? He was a machine. Oh, tell me this thing. No. Babe has been with Garnier because he helped Garnier. No, I'm not.
You know, I'll have to be honest with you. I don't remember anything that Babe Hepburn did during the war.
Really?
Yeah. He just didn't stand out as a soldier.
He's all over.
Yeah, I know. You know the episode that's coming up,
I love it.
8:30 Sunday night. It'll be a good show. Yeah, it's going to show all these guys as they are now. And of course, there are three of them that I know of that are dead now. It's Halligan and Kennedy and Papa.
They interviewed him?
Yeah, they interview each man, and I've seen 15 minutes of it or so. It lasts an hour and almost an hour and a half, and I've seen about 15 minutes. I've got it at home.
I didn't know Popeyes died.
Didn't have a chance to see it before we left on this trip, but I saw a little bit of it. And what it is,
That book that she has Popeye's signature. Mine doesn't, but the new one has it.
taken by
Yeah.
Mark Powell and
Very rare.
Yeah.
when they came to the film, and there are these shots of the men commenting on this and commenting on that. It's going to be a great book.
Really?
Yeah.
But you know what? Did you know that Will called me and he said, Tracy, I know they interviewed you and your assistant, but I hate to take it, but that's 600 hours of footage, and we just can't get y'all in the documentary. I said, oh, gee, Will, I'm real upset. As if I would expect you to have us in this thing. I said, but you know,
They wanted to get a feel for Daddy's character.
certainly, yeah. Certainly, you got God in this. He goes, well, that's the second thing I have to say. Tracy. The only people that concentrate on this are guys who have either heard so alive and are poets. He said, and the guys who died in battle. Oh, hell, Dad, you know, shoot. I said,
Oh, that's too bad.
well, wait a minute.
Okay, I'm listening.
He saw 2 days later. He said, guess what? I said, what? He said, well, I've got your dad. I said, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? He says, he's standing next to so-and-so who got killed in battle in a still photo. I said, great. So that's going to be, you probably have to look really hard.
Who's he standing next to? Do you know?
He didn't tell me. I don't think he knew.
What? Of course, as I
But it's a
said,
guy that's dead now, that died in battle.
I don't
The guy who
know.
got him out,
They don't have,
Dad stands
in the
next
part
to
that I've seen,
Okay.
they don't have any
on the
talking.
guy.
On the other guy.
Yeah.
I'll still watch.
Yeah.
In the documentary,
But as I see the rest of it, that I do talk about war. You know my feelings about war.
And his about the mutual admiration.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm telling you. Lipton coming to town like the second coming of Christ.
Closest friend I had in my entire life.
Really? Even the civilian business.
I've talked all through my life.
How often did you see? Well,
Walter and I.
Was it more letters or was it
Oh, we talked quite often. We wrote to each other. quite often, visited down at past weekend. Didn't have to be an occasion. I would just have some time and we'd decide we'd get together.
What about while you were working in career mining? You didn't see much of them then?
No, I didn't. When I was in Europe, I didn't. Of course, he and Betty came over to Geneva while we were there, and so we got to see him then. But, no, from Europe. Prior to that was difficult. Well, except we built, we were in Owens, Illinois, we built a factory in New Orleans. So I got down to New Orleans quite often in the building of that factory. So I got to see him. Yeah, and he would come, I would come down with the top brass of Owens, Illinois, and Walter would come and have dinner with us. And we would have great time.
He just adores you. Thought you were the smartest man alive, is all I can tell you. And he just admires you, I guess, is the word.
Well, I felt the same way about him. Just one wonderful.
You got his humor. Did you find him?
Oh, my Oh, sure. Yeah, he was famous.
Even outside of St. Patrick.
And the rest of the company, not outside of economics. He was pretty, oh yeah.
Who are you looking for?